pulling the political rug out from underneath Theresa May's feet. And this thing really blew up because the president said with her new, what's called a soft Brexit plan for the UK leaving the European Union, it was likely that the United States wasn't going to be able to cut a trade deal with her. And it sounded like the president was being critical of her policies regarding Brexit. But the president insisted today, standing there beside Theresa May, that he was not being critical of her and that the two of them actually are probably going to be able to work something out on trade after the Brexit. Listen here.
The only thing I ask of Theresa is that we make sure we can trade, that we don't have any restrictions, because we want to trade with the UK, and the UK wants to trade with us. We're by far their biggest trading partner, and we have, just a tremendous opportunity to double, triple, quadruple that.
Now, for her part, Theresa May insisted repeatedly that when she takes Britain out of the European Union, and that will be March of 2019, she will do so in a way that will allow Britain to cut trade deals with the United States. Another big issue that was on the plate there at Chequers during their working meeting today, the upcoming summit with President Vladimir Putin. President Trump, we're told, was notified of these pending indictments against these 12 Russians, so clearly he would have been coming at the issue today with the knowledge that that was about to pop. And during the press conference, the president saying that he will bring up the issue of meddling in the election with Putin Monday in Helsinki. Listen here.
We'll be talking about meddling, and I will absolutely bring that up. I don't think you'll have any, gee, I did it, you got me. There won't be a Perry Mason here, I don't think, but you never know what happens, right? But I will absolutely, firmly ask the question. And hopefully we'll have a very good relationship with Russia.
Now, back in Washington, Democrats were saying that the president shouldn't meet with Putin at all. He should cancel the meeting because of these indictments. The Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer in a statement saying President Trump should cancel his meeting with Vladimir Putin and until Russia takes demonstrable and transparent steps to prove that they won't intervene in future elections, or interfere rather in future elections. Glad-handing with Vladimir Putin on the heels of these indictments would be an insult to our democracy. On his way back to Chequers, the building from the press conference there outside, the president was shouted a question, will you tell Vladimir Putin to stop meddling in U.S. elections? The answer coming back from the president, Brian, yes.
And how's we know how Chuck Schumer, believe it or not, is against the president doing something. It's very odd. But how's the rest of the world feel, for the most part, when you can tell, especially coming off the NATO summit in Brussels? How do they feel about the president meeting with Vladimir Putin?
This was really an interesting dichotomy that we saw when we were in Brussels yesterday with the president, because you have all of his critics back home saying, don't meet with Putin, you're coddling Russia, you're cozying up to them, they don't deserve a meeting. Meantime, a lot of our NATO allies were saying, look, we have to talk to Russia. A lot of us have to deal with Russia. I mean, Germany is going to be buying natural gas from them for God knows how long. And there was a lot of support, particularly from Justin Trudeau, the Prime Minister of Canada, and Theresa May, the Prime Minister of Britain. And she reiterated it again today that she looks forward to the president sitting down with Vladimir Putin because they think that talking is better than not talking. And if the president can start to make some headway, that's probably a good thing. Now, I asked the president, is it possible to improve relations between the United States and Russia with Putin still in Crimea? And he said he thought it would be. I asked him what his plan was to get Russia out of Crimea. He said, well, I'm not going to tell you. Now, I don't know if that means he has a plan and he's just not telling me, or he hasn't yet formulated a plan. We'll see, right?
I'll see if he'll tell me, and then I'll tell you, John, and then you can report it. Thanks so much. John Roberts doing a great job. He must have a lot of Vivarin because he seems to be always up. Meanwhile, there was no shortage of protesters against this president as he made his visit, for example.
No Trump! No KKK! No fascist USA! Donald Trump's not welcome here! Donald Trump's not welcome here! What do we want? Where do we want it? What do we want? Where do we want it?
All right, you got the idea? That's what a protest looks like. We don't do much of that in this country, and I'm being sarcastic. Robert Powell is with The Economist, which is, in 2016, rated Donald Trump when he was a contender as one of the world's 10 greatest risks alongside jihadi terrorism in your column. But that was, you were just a kid then, Robert. You didn't know he was going to get the nomination. You didn't know he was going to win. He won. We're almost at year 2 now. We're not in the midst of a series of terror attacks, and we didn't reinvigorate the Cold War. So were you wrong?
Yeah, good question. It's a gift that keeps on giving, this, isn't it? The issue was actually, when we go back to the beginning, is it was about, is Trump a threat to the global economy? That's what all those risk scenarios were about, and we've got a trade war.
But you did write about terror.
Poison. Yeah, because he had a whole host of issues regarding inflaming Muslim opinion and so forth, and a lot of that's come in with the protests in the UK. There's been quite a backlash globally to some of the immigration policies and such like over here.
So a couple of things. You do point out that President Bush in 2003 had basically the same size protests when he went to visit Tony Blair. Exactly.
Yeah, this isn't new. The thing about being the US is a bit like being Tom Cruise. You know, everybody knows you and everyone's got an opinion about you. So you get a few more people coming out than you would if, say, the Portuguese Prime Minister popped by. But to be fair, he has, as I said, taken some measures, retweeted the neo-fascist British First tweets. The British tend to be quite green, so they didn't like their withdrawing from the Paris Agreement and so forth. So there is a body of opinion against him, but it's not highly unusual to get.
When you looked at his relationship with Theresa May, which didn't start off great, but they seem to have bonded. They almost had each other's back at the presser and in Brussels, reportedly. Am I overstating it?
Yeah, right. It's extraordinary, because he came in and he bulldozed in with his diplomacy, and he basically undermined a whole Brexit plan, but then by the end of the day, they're holding hands. So I don't know what happened in between.
But, you know, listen to this. So Theresa May is somewhat, it's somewhat of a gray area. Is she going to Brexit? Is she going to kind of Brexit? Is she going to kind of be in the European Union? Well, after meeting with President Trump, she goes, I'm leaving in March. I want a bilateral. I'm not in the European Union. I want a bilateral with the United States of America. Case closed. She didn't say that last week.
Yeah, he's given her a bit of vim and vinegar, hasn't he? But I think it's, unfortunately, she's trying to take the middle ground at the moment, and that's the problem, because no one seems to be happy with that, when in the middle everybody wants the extremes, so she's in a spot of bother.
So would you say overall, and don't let me put words in your mouth, is he somewhat better, doing somewhat better than you would have thought in 2016 when you projected a Trump presidency?
It's a cracking question. Well, the economy's going great guns.
What kind of question is it?
It's a cracking question.
Okay, I like that.
The economy's going great guns, so far so good, and we'll keep hoping for the best.
All right. Are you happy to be here, Robert?
Oh, I love being on.
Yeah, you know what? Because you have not stopped smiling. It's good.
It helps increase my face value.
Yeah, it is, absolutely. Hopefully it'll be big for the ratings. Robert Powell, thanks so much.